Malcolm here, and today we're talking about how to be a human preacher. How to be a human preacher. So this is Tuesday teaching tip number 104, and we're talking about how to be human because sometimes we can get into this mode of preaching where we become someone different. It's a different role to be speaking in front of people, for people, to people, but not a different person. My wife has been very helpful. Sometimes I've been preaching and she said, "That wasn't you up there today. Was it you up there last Sunday? Was it you up there in that last lesson? Or were you truly human?" This matters so much because if we're not human in our preaching, the people we're speaking to won't believe that we connect with them, and they'll find it much harder to believe that this amazing book and our amazing God, and especially Jesus, can connect with them. Wasn't Jesus a very human teacher, preacher? People flocked to him, they hung on his every word, and it wasn't just the quality of his preaching and teaching, though that was part of it. It was also his quality as a person, even not just as he healed and talked to people personally, but even as he taught, he came across as human. And it's so important that we master this quality. And it's not so much a technique, but there are some things we can think about that will help us to come across more as a human being. Really, the key issue to begin before all others is simply that we're not meant to be a hypocrite. If we're a hypocrite, it's not going to work. Not to mean that we have to be perfect, but certainly not a hypocrite. Let me tell you a story. In 1991, a chap called Heinrich in Frankfurt went back to his car in which he had parked illegally to find a traffic policeman putting a ticket, a parking ticket, a fine on his windscreen. And Heinrich became very angry and he punched the policeman in the mouth. He said to the policeman, "Here's something for your mouth," and punched him right in the mouth. He was given a 1-month suspended sentence and a fine of £900. Not good. And you may think that's not good, and you'd be right. What's the significance of this? The significance is that Heinrich's job is as an anger management consultant. That's one thing to have a difficulty with your anger levels. It's another to be an anger management consultant and punch a policeman in his face for doing his job when you had done something plainly illegal. We are not to be perfect, but we are also not to be hypocrites. How can we bring across our humanness to the people that we speak to? If we've got a problem with hypocrisy, that's a whole nother level. You've got to open up to a friend and deal with the issues in your heart. But what about the day-to-day speaking? What do we do with that? I think we take a clue from the Apostle Paul, 2 Corinthians 11, towards the end of that chapter. He says this, "Who is weak," in verse 29, "and I do not feel weak? Who is led into sin, and I do not inwardly burn?" He acknowledges that he's weak and that he feels weak. He acknowledges that he is led into sin and he inwardly burns. He's talking about something that's deep inside of himself. So 3 simple things for us today, and then let me know what you think. Firstly, do share your sins. If you sin, share about it. Make sure if it involves somebody else, of course, that it's appropriate to share it publicly, and do make sure that it's appropriate to the people you'll be speaking to. But share your sins when they are relevant and appropriate. Secondly, share your weaknesses. And I think this is one of the big things I had to learn over the last 10 years or so, is that I don't like sharing my sins, but I understand that and I will do it. But sharing my weaknesses is something else entirely, connected in a way, but actually different. And it's important to share our weaknesses because sometimes as people listen to us, they think that we're superhuman, that we don't have the same weaknesses as them. Somehow just standing up in front of everybody or wearing a suit or whatever you're wearing somehow gives them the impression that you are different from them, when of course you're not. And sharing a weakness can be particularly helpful in that regard. But then thirdly, as well as sharing your sins and being honest and open about your weaknesses, thirdly, don't beat yourself up. It doesn't help people to see the preacher or the teacher beat themselves up as somebody who's worthless and useless. If you get into that, people are going to begin to wonder why you're up there in the first place. They like to hear about your sins. They like to hear about your weaknesses. It makes you human. But don't beat yourself up as if you are unworthy of being there or even being a Christian. 3 simple things to try in your next lesson. Share one of your sins. Share one of your weaknesses. Don't beat yourself up. What do you think about this? Would this help people to, like the Apostle Paul, to believe that you're human? Would it help people to see more of Jesus in you? What do you think? Please leave a comment wherever you hear or see this recording, because we need to learn from one another, and we learn best when we learn in community. And also please pass the link on to this recording to one other person who might benefit from it. Hit the like button on this video so that more people will notice it. It'll get picked up more. And if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button so that you can be the first to be notified of new videos. I'd appreciate it if you could do that. Thanks so much. Until the next time, I hope you have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful week. God bless.